Guess what you're doing? Great again by watching. Message that I try to get across in the show is anti-war. And I try to give the history of it because this country is, man, we are in 8 wars now? I don't know, I've lost track. We spend 60, 70% of our budget on war, and we have been warned about this for quite a while, okay? Look at that fancy logo. I talk a lot about Smedley Butler and his book, War is a Racket, where he, back in the 30s, told us about the military-industrial complex. A lot of people think it was Eisenhower that came up. I mean, Eisenhower came up with that term, but Eisenhower was not the first American general to go, uh-oh. Smedley Butler saw this. And he saw this working in the late 1800s and early 1900s. He called himself, he was muscle for American capitalists, going into countries and steamrolling the U.S. military to get their natural resources. In China, in Central and South America, in the, Southeast Asia. I mean, it was all over the place. So this is something I didn't know. So a lot of people say FDR saved capitalism because in the 20s and 30s, in the 20s, we had serious labor riots. And then when the crash hit, the stock market crash, and I always forget, it's either 28 or 29, there was a lot of people going, capitalism, we're done with this. 1915 was called, back in World War I, around that era, that was called Wall Street's War, okay? So Smedley Butler revealed in 1933, exposed a plan to a congressional committee that a group of wealthy industrialists were planning a military coup to overthrow FDR because he was bad for business. FDR went to these industrialists, these capitalists, and said, look guys, capitalism, they're gonna string you up if you don't. This is gonna be like the French Revolution if you guys don't play ball and let me help out working class people. So we've been talking about this problem a lot. We've seen the last 4 decades of these corporations, but they've been doing this for over 100 years. I mean, in this country, it's unreal. This is, a fan of the show said, Graham, you got to watch this video. We were talking about Smedley Butler. And he said, have you seen this video? I said, no, and he sent it to me. Forgive the sound. It's from the 30s.
I appeared before the Congressional Committee, the highest representation of the American people, under subpoena to tell what I knew of activities which I believe might lead to an attempt to set up a fascist dictatorship. The plan as outlined to me was to form an organization of veterans, to use as a bluff or as a club at least, to intimidate the government and break down our democratic institutions. The upshot of the whole thing was that I was supposed to lead an organization of 500,000 men, which would be able to take over the functions of government. I talked with an investigator for this committee who came to me with a subpoena on Sunday, November 18th. He told me they had unearthed evidence linking my name with several such veteran organizations. As it then seemed to me to be getting serious, I felt it was my duty to tell all I knew of such activities to this committee. My main interest in all this is to preserve our democratic institutions. I want to retain the right to vote, the right to speak freely, and the right to write. If we maintain these basic principles, our democracy is safe. No dictatorship can exist with suffrage, freedom of speech, and press.
So, this...
Smedley Butler, a U.S. Marine Corps General Major who was...
This, before we get into this next one, what he was talking about, this is how they were trying to do a coup back in the 1930s. They were going to get a bunch of 500,000 veterans, most of whom had fought in World War I. to take over the country. And they wanted him, the most highly decorated Marine ever, to lead it. What the scary thing is the ruling class has become far more sophisticated. So we see, like the 60s, anytime somebody spoke up against anti-war and the ruling class, JFK, Bobby Kennedy, Dr. King, Malcolm X, Fred Hampton, they all got executed. They got killed. That's how they did it. Now, they don't even let those people near power, or they smear them, or they compromise them in some way, because they saw, oh, when we execute these people, they can become martyrs, and that's not a good thing. They've learned. When television came along, the Vietnam War was on TV, so they couldn't have that anymore. Oh, drafts are bad. Oh, so we'll come up with, financial conscription, basically, poverty draft. He saw all this coming. I didn't know that these ruling class capitalists wanted him to do a military coup here in America. And they thought, well, he's our guy. I mean, he's fought all these wars. And later in life, he realized what he had done wasn't right, which is when he wrote War is a Racket.
Most decorated Marine at the time of his death stated it well when he wrote,
I spent 33 years and 4 months in active military service, and during that period, I spent most of my time as a high-class muscle man for big business, for Wall Street and the bankers.
I was a high-class muscle man for business, for Wall Street and the bankers. That's why they came to him, because he played ball initially, and then he retired and went, this ain't right. And they came to him and thought, before he wrote this book and said all this stuff, he said, oh, we're gonna get Smedley Butler. He'll help this coup to get rid of this evil socialist FDR. I just want people to know what this country has been doing, what it is capable of, and if they were doing it in the 30s, what do you think they're doing? This is before the NSA and the CIA were invented. This is before there was billionaires. This is before there was multinational conglomerates.
Short, I was a racketeer, a gangster for capitalism. I helped make Mexico safe for American oil interests. I helped make Haiti and Cuba a decent place for the National City Bank boys to collect revenues in. I helped in raping of half a dozen Central American republics for the benefit of Wall Street. I helped purify Nicaragua for the International Banking House of Brown Brothers. I brought light to the Dominican Republic for the American sugar interests. I helped make Honduras right for the American fruit companies.
Any of these countries sound familiar? Oh, we're still sanctioning some of them. We're still causing problems. All of those refugees that the Trump people want to stop at the border and go back to your country. No, we've created them the same way he was doing back then. The same way he was doing 80, 90 years ago. 100 years ago. It's the same shit, man. It just keeps getting worse. He was doing this. He just said it. I was muscle for the banks, for Wall Street.
In China, I helped see to it that Standard Oil went on its way unmolested. Looking back on it, I might have given Al Capone a few hints. The best that he could do was operate his racket in 3 districts. I operated on 3 continents. War is a racket. It always has been. A few profit and the many pay. But there is a way to stop it. You can end it by disarmament conferences. It can be smashed effectively only by taking the profit out of war.
Take the profit out of war. One of the things Smedley Butler talked about is something I've talked about. He said, put the capitalists, conscript them, Draft the capitalists and their children to go to war. I bet you it'll end. Take the profit out of war. Same thing. Same thing. Oh, Iran. Every day there's a new false flag we got to deal with. Going to the Strait of Hormuz, the false flag highway, because Iran won't give up their oil. Venezuela won't give up their oil. And economic sanctions are a form of warfare. It's just gotten, what he was doing 80, 100 years ago, we've just gotten more sophisticated at. He called it out. He called it out, folks. Thanks for watching the show. Like, subscribe, share these videos. Also, you can watch all the videos ad-free at Rokfin. Rokfin, the link is below, is spelled R-O-K-F-I-N, not R-O-C-K takes you to some mortgage site. There's no way I'm taking you to a mortgage site. So go to rokfin.com/Graham Elwood. It is a blockchain platform that pays all of the creators in cryptocurrency. We all own the platform, so a company like Google can't come out and buy it. Also, patreon.com/Graham Elwood is another great way to support the show. And then Ron Placone and I, Progressive Comedy Tour, Vegas, July 27th. And then in September, we're going to Omaha, September 4th, Sioux Falls, September 5th, Madison, Wisconsin, September 6th, Minneapolis, September 7th, and Iowa City, September 8th. Get all your tickets at grahamelwood.com. And also, I'm going to Russia, folks. You can donate to the Indiegogo. I'm going to go shoot a documentary in Russia. That is in the show notes below. Thank you so much for watching and coming to get your truth here. Because they're not playing videos of Smedley Butler on MSNBC and Fox and ABC and CNN and all that shit. They're not doing that. That's a real patriot. Smedley Butler, that's what a real patriot looks like. I did the wrong thing. I got to make it right before I die. Thanks for watching.